coming. This is so heartwarming. I love it. So the reason why I created this event is to encourage Filipinos to like come together and work and meet each other. I feel like people need to see people speaking out publicly and not only amongst themselves. So I'm gonna let you guys introduce yourselves, like tell me your names and what you do, and we'll start with that.
My name is Michelle. I am a poet, a teacher, and a photographer.
So cute. So you're the poet, okay.
One of, I think.
So I'm Arlene. I'm a fitness coach, personal trainer, group fitness instructor, and pretty much anything fitness and well-being related. Yeah, that's me.
My name is Felice. My artist name is Bella Cadesis. I'm a printmaker. I do screen printing and lithography. And yeah, I'm an artist and also really passionate about community and building spaces.
So how did you get into that? Like, why did you decide to be in this creative space?
For me personally, I just always felt compelled to do art. It was just something that I found gave me a lot of therapy and came really, not even naturally, it was just a really nice world to escape to. And I felt really inclined to just put out publicly my journaling, my drawings, my meditations, and it's not for everyone, but I do feel like when it is received by someone that it's meant to be, like it's like this way to be like, wow, like you're not alone, like things are being validated collectively. I do believe in the collective conscious and just to really like be a part of that community. So that's the reason why I started like being more involved in art fairs and being more involved in like that community that sells their work. So it's really hard to say that like entrepreneur, it was just more like this thing that naturally came together.
Yeah, it evolved.
But like part of you.
I was just gonna say like it's like Filipinos are not so big in art. Well, I mean maybe generally speaking, but like Filipinos who are here in Montreal, you know, they have like a specific domain, like nurses per se. So like I'm glad that you know you're in your own, you're pushing your own dreams and you're going through it, even though it's not a popular thing to do, like for Filipinos, I guess.
For sure, I was a caregiver for a few years. I was a cleaner for a few years. I'm still doing like the hustles on the side because I'm not making enough. I'm not living off of my art. So the reality is like it happens.
Yeah,
it happens. Like there is that part of me that was like, when I was caregiving and doing that art, I was just like, this was just living with all of these contrasts in your life and like just holding that. But like, yeah, my parents were never super like supportive.
Yeah.
I was gonna go into art therapy to like get into art school. That's the reason how I got into art school. So I had to be really like mindful of how to navigate all of that. But like,
I think it's not easy.
I think it's natural for women to try to see all the possible lanes they could occupy. And it's not a question of, when it comes to this, it's not really a question of, like, today I feel like it's easier for women to create their own way. But my point was, is the one that we can find nervous. I feel like now that it's easier, it's not that we have all these challenges. I think we try to tackle as many challenges as we can. Just because we're cool like that.
More multi.
How did you become a fitness coach?
So I've always been into fitness and health and working for somebody else. So and then I realized, wait a second, these people are charging $80 for personal training, and I get, like 30% of this. This doesn't make sense. I'm like, let me do my own thing, and then like with time as well, you value yourself, you value your experience, your clients. And I said, you know what, I think I can do it on my own. So that's when I started, working off the gym and then building my own clientele, building my own network. But I still have my other foot though in the gym setting. It's not like I completely left the gym setting because I feel like it's also a network that I can grab a hold to. I guess, does that answer your question? How did I get into I've always been, in fitness, and I said and I think people started asking me how can I do this? And then eventually I went to school because I wanted to learn more about it, and I saw what I can do with that knowledge. So
were your parents encouraging you?
Yeah, totally. They're very they wanted me to go to school. So whichever course you take, go for it. And then second, if helping other people live a better or healthier lifestyle, they're very happy that I'm on it. Very supportive, yes.
And you said that you like to stay at the gym because it keeps a certain network close to you.
Yeah. As an entrepreneur as well, it's hard to market yourself on your own. Like you mentioned in that I think your page yesterday, that we can't go on our own for the rest of our lives. We need people to help each other. So I do use that platform. The gym has a nice platform because they've already have members. So you need to I feel for me anyways, it's helpful that I have that help. And then I also branch on my own and find my own clients.
So I've been contemplating on leaving my job at the spa. But one of the reasons why how come? Because I can do without.
Right.
But the reason why I keep it is because people who like to go to the spa regularly are people who have that kind of money.
Yeah.
And these are just most likely to be loyal customers.
Yes.
And coming from a lower caste, let's say, being surrounded by these type of people, I thought maybe this would open up some doors for me. But no, I've been in the hotel business for 4 years, I think. Hotel business, tourism area for hospitality area for 4 years. And no, I think it's because most of these people come and go, and there are people who don't necessarily do community work or health work.
So it's like an in and out.
Mm-hmm.
There's not much loyalty.
My network actually grew when I moved into the office space when you were on your own.
Interesting.
Yeah. So just to say, safe isn't necessarily more profitable.
Yeah, I totally hear you. Yeah.
It is scary.
Yeah, it's scary, but it's one of my end goals as well, is to actually just do it on my own. It's just I'm at the point where it's still not. I have 2 kids. So I'm still at that point where I can't fully engage. But yeah, it's the end goal for sure.
How did you get in? What did you get in first?
Okay.
How did you get into these?
I got into poetry first because I've always wanted to express myself, and I find that through writing, that's how I could do it. So then I wrote a lot of poems from like the age of, I think it was like 2, and then I let that go. And then I actually self-published my first book last year.
Oh, nice.
I had a few sales, thank you. Had a few sales, so it's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Indigo, but not in stores, just online. They get most of the royalties because I posted, well, I sell through this thing called Blur, and that's where I publish. Yeah, it's super free, but I get a lot of the money. So for every book I make like $5. If I sell one book, I only get $5, but it's like $15 per book.
Is there one platform that sells more?
Like the stores? Amazon. Yeah, because everyone knows Amazon, and it's the one thing that I mentioned to people. Yeah, so there's that, and I'm writing another book. Yeah, because I write on the go and everything. And then
poetry book?
Yes. Yeah. So it's on my Instagram, and you put it on the Facebook page. So what else? And then I became a teacher. While I was becoming a teacher, I also had another job, and it was a photography job. So I worked at a photo studio, and during that whole time, I started going out with my boyfriend who likes film photography. Yeah, so like everything, I was learning all at the same time. So I got into film with him. Then I was also working at Magenta in the photo studio, so I was trained to become professional. And I also took a class at Dawson like a few years ago on photography, so I know it. And then I got my first contract this year as a high school teacher. Must be a lot of things, yeah.
Is it overwhelming for you?
For everything to be happening at once sometimes. But I learned how to be like, okay, you need some time for yourself, Michelle, because I feel like as Filipinos we want to be like super women, you know? Because a lot of people look down on us just because we're a visible minority. And I'm gonna go into that because someone mentioned today that like it's the first time they see a Filipino working as a teacher. And so I feel like
In LaSalle?
yes. So
Like the West LaSalle? Like LaSalle College or LaSalle?
oh no, LaSalle.
LaSalle.
Yeah. So I forgot what my point was. What did I say before this?
First Filipino teaching.
Yes. So it's very new, and people look down on us, but I just want to like build a bigger community in the teaching world and tell people like we can all do it. Yeah. We all do what we want to do.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
And if little me can do it, and I also want to be like an example, an example to my students. So
Yeah.
I really feel that because I was teaching workshops in libraries, and it was just so interesting to say the lex terms because sometimes I would be teaching with someone else who is like very white passing male, taller, you know, has a sense of like a natural, quote unquote, natural sense of authority, and just the way that people would approach us, so different.
yeah.
So different.
It's the same in the gym. I think it's a male-dominated industry, basically. People will hire men like this, but if it's a woman, and let alone a Filipino or Filipina, it's like another challenge. But like prove them wrong. It's just like any other nationality or any other sex, right? But,
Would you feel insulted if you felt that you were hired because you're Asian?
I actually have a lot to say about that. The school board. The school board, I think it's new, I'm not sure. Like, don't quote me on this, but they are more prone to hiring diversity now, just to show that there's diversity in the schools. So it's really funny how there's that, and then there's this new rule where they're like, in the public workplace, you can't wear anything that shows your religion or anything like that. But then they're like, we want to hire diversity.
Right.
But the good thing about the school board I work for, like Commission Starar, Magnet Bourgeois, is that they like boycotted that law. So, but it's very weird that like we're hired because of our diversity. But it's cool, but it's interesting to show. It goes to show that like there's like not a lot of culture in schools. And,
I mean, if there's a call for diversity, it must be because there's diverse people like who want to make movies. Right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Demand.
Yeah. I was telling someone we were talking about it over a party last weekend. She was telling me that she still has trouble facing clients who come from like Westmount and stuff like that. And I told her like, I understand, but I don't think it's something that you can get over. I mean, maybe you'll handle it like it'll pass a lot faster in the future.
Yeah.
But like me, for example, in the spa industry, at work, what we do is I go pick up my clients like at a lounge. So I call them up and then they come towards me and then we go to the room. And sometimes when I'm in a couples massage, let alone like a single person, when I'm in a couples massage, my client wouldn't look at me because it's like weird, right?
Interesting.
Like they're not used to like talking to a darker skinned Filipino.
Interesting.
Yeah, but I mean, I can't react. I just have to continue like nothing's wrong, you know. So.
Would it be the female or the male that was like, or whatever type of?
It's most
couple
likely the woman who I noticed would do that. But I mean, some men too. But when it comes to the men, I think it's also a matter of like looking at an exotic woman while they're coming for a massage with their husband. With their wife, you know. So yeah, I face that.
Yeah, definitely not easy. It's a challenge. I don't get so much of that attention thing.
It's cool.
Yeah, I mean, they can, it's the service that counts at the end of the day. Yeah.
That's true.
I'm for energy cardio as well.
Okay. So second question. How do you pick up from a creative decline or inspirational decline? You know, we can't always be like super motivated, you know, life happens and sometimes things bring us down. So, was there ever like a downtime for you when you were like, oh my god, how can I feel inspired? Like, have you ever not felt inspired?
Yes, just because like I teach every day. There's no day that I have off. Even our ped days, guys, our ped days we go.
Right.
Yeah, so I think I go back to poetry a lot. Like I have a lot of me time because my work is I'm surrounded by people all the time. So I go back to poetry, I just sit and write, and I feel like that's what gets me going. It keeps me sane. Or I cook, because that's another form of art for me. I just got a lot of me time, you know, and just stay surrounded, if I want, with people that I know love me and that I love. Just to like ground me, you know, to remind me that like you're still human, you're not a robot. Because especially when you're starting as a teacher, you want to be perfect, and you're watched all the time. It'll take 2 years before I have a permanent position, so it's super hard. And sometimes I forget about that, and then I'm like, okay, I just think about work for the whole week, and I don't think about myself. So I'm like, okay, when I breathe, I'm like, you gotta write something. You gotta let some art flow in. That's how I do it.
Do you ever have like, how do you get creative?
I think the key point that she said is the me time. I think that's really important. Like I think in anything that you do, you'll definitely hit like, you know, a downfall or you're just not motivated. So like I pretty much work 6 days a week as well, but like I'm also venturing the online realm. So I have clients texting, messaging in the middle of the night because it's a different time zone for them. Or, you know, then I have my kids as well, and then I've got to go in the evening to teach a class, and I'm like exhausted from, you know, training other people. Now I got to give a class.
Wow.
So that's a little, it's physically demanding. So for me, it's really my me time. Like I gotta get my juices flowing as well, which is for me it's either training or eating well. Taking the time for myself.
Just time where you're not interacting with anybody.
Exactly. I have to put my phone on and make sure I also eat on time, eat properly. Because when I have clients back to back, I'm sure you can. Sometimes you tend to not eat anymore because I have a client after. I have a client right after this. Now I'm like I gotta schedule a little bit of time for me to eat because that's the only way for me to have the energy to train you and then have the energy to give the classes again later on. So me time is definitely the key point to this, and also for me as a trainer or a fitness coach, going to conventions. Fitness conventions, when you do, and when I take workshops too, it's crucial, continuing educations, that keeps you motivated again, meeting other people who are experiencing the same state as you, and then
learning, basically.
Learning,
going out to learn new stuff.
Definitely, like you said, when you give your workshops, and I love sitting and just absorbing knowledge, and that gives me other motivation to move on.
Shoots new ideas.
New ideas, exactly. Definitely.
Downfalls for me is first and foremost because it always starts with I'm blocking something mentally. So surrendering and being this is part of the process, and pausing, allowing other things to enter into my life. That's a part of it, and that pause is creatively there for a reason. So surrendering to that fact is first and foremost so important for me to really feel. And then in the past, just keeping myself within a range of that creativity. I've been really loving and enjoying being more of a supportive role for artists, so making chapter books, poetry books for other artists, printing for other artists, being inspired with their process, being able to talk to them and them being I'm going through this, or they're having anxiety on this or doubts, and just being that other party being it's fine, your art is great, this work is going to be amazing, I'm here to see it to the end and make sure there's it comes out and we're wow, it made something really beautiful. I love being on that end too, instead of being just about my work. So that inspires me to be even it is a process. I have this print I've been wanting to put out, and it's this element chart, and it's been a couple years now, but there's a lot of research going behind it, and I need to contact other artists and get other information. So I'm okay, it's going to be a thing. It's going to take some time. There's going to be I have to learn some other things because it's going to be 3D model. Anyways, there's just a process to it. So I'm okay, I just need to know that it's a downtime, but it's part of it.
So basically, for what I'm picking up is in the art realm, I feel people are a lot more open about talking about their emotions. Is that the case?
Yeah, it's so bizarre because I'm entering into other spheres where it's different. I struggled a lot when I started teaching more with this community organization because we didn't talk about emotions a lot, or we didn't have a lot of personal exchange. For me, it was very difficult, and to just navigate that and get past that. And I actually went through a lot of hard times interacting with my coordinators and people that coworkers because we didn't really speak the same language. Because in the art world, it's just a different pace. It's a different sensitivity. We're not always making money from our art. There's not a lot of money in the art. It's very rare. You have to be such a rare person to be out killing it, making murals. Selling on in the storefronts. It's such a rare thing, but there's so many other undercurrents and there's so much beautiful art that you see that's uncovered, and I'm into that. That's fine for me. So the most important part is just being inspired and hearing stories and really being invested in the art that's being made. So that's how I get my pleasure, but it's not paying bills, you know what I mean? So it's different.
It's hard.
It's, the monetary aspect I'm really trying to figure out. Like I'm going back to school for finance because I would like to know where to, how to have harmony in that.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I think it's the same with fitness as well. It's like there's your passion, but somehow I can't just give free fitness tips all the time.
Yeah, so how do you do that? How do you?
Right. Well, I mean, I'll give them little tips here and there, and they're like, okay, you know what? If you have many questions, let's schedule an appointment. Because at one point it goes on, and it's great, right? But like I have time. I have to feed my kids too. I can't just sit here and give you free tips. Yeah, I know it's a challenge.
I'm going to answer your question. So I'm a massage therapist, right? The way I get creative with that is basically...
That's true, we don't even ask you.
That's true,
Yeah, me too. So in massage now, I feel like because I'm so familiar with the body, I can kind of, I feel like I'm playing with your nervous system.
Okay.
Interesting. So that's fun for me. And the whole promoting myself, using Photoshop and like video editing, I feel like that's how I get creative.
Yeah. Okay. So
I think if I wasn't being creative, I'd be like, there's something missing.
Yeah. Do you get massages for yourself?
I have something.
Yeah, because I mean, also it takes a toll on you, right? Like,
and I don't have a very good posture.
I mean, it's common though for like a lot of massage therapists because like either your wrists or your
like my shoulders are often like too close to my ears. It's not good.
So how many clients would you say you take in a day, like for your body to feel okay?
Like 6 is like a good. 5 is a good day. Even 4 is also a good day. 4 to 6 is a good day. But like from when I get like my 7th or maybe even my 6th, like my 7th, I'll be like, okay, this is not fun anymore. Like, this is just work now.
Yeah, it's work. It's hustle.
And at the spa, when I'm there, so I work every other weekend over there, and we do full days. So on Saturday, I'll go to like 8. Yeah. Oh my god. And some days I don't even know why. Like now I'm thinking about it. I used to go to the gym after. Yeah. What the fuck, this? There's so much work. You're so tired.
You wanted to let some stress out, probably.
Like get the energy away from here.
Yeah. Also, there was another question. You feel like you absorb your client's energy?
Yeah. Like sometimes I look at like when I'm seeing the people for the first time, you can tell they're like really tired.
Yeah.
And then I won't notice in the moment, or maybe I will. It depends. But like sometimes I come out of the room and I'm like, damn, I want to do this. Like, this person was so heavy.
Yeah.
But I think when that happens, and like because of the fact I'm aware of it, I could also shake it off.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
It's like it's really important for me to be aware of myself.
To have like a filter as well. Yeah.
Like and also like if I want to keep going, I need to make sure like I feel right.
Yeah, that's it.
And not like overdo myself too fast and then like crash too soon. You know? Wow. Do you guys have any questions?
A question from the audience.
I wanted to ask Michelle because she said that like her me time is her poetry. So your me time is poetry. Because me too, like we like to write too. So we do that, but you're not always motivated to write also. So you have like a break from your break. So what do you do if you're not inspired to write?
I watch a lot of YouTube videos. Just honestly about anything. You just have to find your ish. You know, you have to find, it could be different. And lately for me, it was like I was watching lots of videos from like Japan. You know, people living in Japan or people cooking, just the noise of people cooking. Or just, if it's not videos and if it's to like get back into writing, I would try to find like inspiration through other poets. You know, and it doesn't, sometimes as writers, you probably know this, you want to write the best piece ever.
Yeah.
And you want to use the best words in the world.
Yeah.
But you can go with something simple and it could still, you have to remember that it could still touch some souls.
Yeah.
You know?
Sometimes less is more.
That's it.
Yeah.
So draw lots of inspiration from other artists and get inspiration from like things around you even.
Do you find you write more about a specific subject than another? Like, I know some people it's more love, more family, more money, more like, is there something you write? Because I haven't read your book. So
No.
I will, but I just like want to know if there's something specific.
Love for sure, because when your girl loves, she loves very much, and I'm a very emotional person. A lot of love, but it's a lot of different subjects in that book. So the way I separated it though is by colors. So each color is a different subject or feeling. So I think Sunbeam is like happy poems. Indigo is sad. Scarlet is like raging love, stuff like that. So I write a lot about love, but a lot about friendship too, and inspiration, and just to like make people happy. Yeah.
I have 2 questions.
Okay.
The first one, because I know that you tried 1 semester at ETHQ. Since I'm also in the hospitality industry and I studied there, I was wondering what put you off? Like, what made you stop studying at ETHQ?
Honestly, school is just not for me. Learning at my own pace, it's not even learning at my own pace, because in massage school, we're basically in school like once or twice a week, 1 to 3 times a week. So like, it's just, as long as it's not taking too much of my brain space, I could deal with it. But like at ETHQ, if you're at school from like 9 to 6, for example, like, nah, I can't. Like, I can't even like sit for an hour and a half, not saying anything, listening to a teacher repeat things for like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah. So it wasn't about like, because I think I'm asking this question because you mentioned about like when you're giving massages to like a higher class people who see people in working in hospitality industry in a very different way, like lower, I guess. Is it like, did you feel we were taught this way and at ETHQ? Like, did you feel like there was an influence of teachers telling you like, oh, you should, clients are always right and you have to treat them like that?
No.
Okay.
No, but I get it. I get the idea, and like I totally respect it. The only thing that really threw me off at school is like how strict they are with the uniform.
Yeah. Yeah. The number of times.
I like to be a person who like adds a little bit of touch to like what I'm wearing.
Yeah.
So working at the spa, like I usually always wear black. It doesn't matter what I'm wearing. I feel like when you have a name tag, it looks pretty professional, right? But when I don't have my name tag on, like some days I'll go in a little more classy. Like I have this blouse with like a bow here, so like that's more like presentable. But sometimes I'll go in like not a sweatshirt, but like those breathable gym shirts, which is cool because massage, muscle and fitness, like. So I get to be my wardrobe gets to be variable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And because just like anyone else, as a massage therapist, like you're basically selling your personality, right, to the client. So I don't feel like I have to be very, what's the word?
You don't have to put it like a mask on to be professional.
Yeah.
It's you.
like I don't have to speak in a way that'll please like one set of people.
Yeah.
I'm the super mellow massage therapist, and that's what you're gonna get. But I mean, as long as you're really respectful to the people, I don't think it should be an issue.
Okay.
And I think when you deal with people, you kind of like you build your intuition. You kind of know like who to be more friendly with, who to be more like discreet with, stuff like that. Was that your 2 questions?
Well, no, my second question, I think it's for the whole group. Do you feel that you're facing different challenges as a female Filipina entrepreneur versus male Filipino entrepreneurs? Like, do you feel like you're facing different challenges in Montreal?
In massage, it's generally more difficult for men to find clients.
Okay.
Unless you're really working with like athletes and your technique is more sportive, then it should be pretty easy. So it's generally harder for men to build up a clientele. Male Filipinos, I've heard of, like I know of like 2 or 3, and they seem to be doing good.
I actually don't think I know any male
I was gonna say, I was like, I
Filipino.
don't even know any
Yeah.
male trainers. They're not trainers.
Male
Like, I know people who train.
Yeah, but they're not
they're not
trainers.
trainers.
But it can be like entrepreneurs, like like different. It can be a different interest, but like who are trying.
I think like our community in Montreal per se, there's more women. So that's an advantage for us because they feel more comfortable working with their own sex, I guess. I don't think it's ever come to me as an issue. In terms of being a Filipino trainer, it's thankfully it hasn't happened. It's not a challenge yet, but like I think it's playing me an advantage for my benefit, anyways, because I'm attracting more of the people from my community, and like that I speak the language, so they're able to communicate their needs precisely. And they're comfortable just like training and speaking the same language and not having to nosebleed or whatever you want to that's my piece.
Do you know any creators?
Male creatives, I would love to see more.
Right?
I would love to see more Filipinos doing anything. Really.
I think it's just like in general, I feel like they're just scared to express themselves, whether it's
male,
or
yeah.
anything. I think it's like they feel they're discriminated.
Well,
Just like by showing their emotions, just a general thing.
That's true.
Oh, really? And why so?
Male?
Yeah, because like I see like I meet a lot of actually Filipinos in Montreal, and I find it so inspiring because I feel like compared to different communities, I feel like they're the ones who are really driven. And I think I'm driven as well, and I think it's from my mom. But it's rare that I meet Filipino guys in Montreal. I don't know why, but is there like a reason why they're more like
women? Well, I know, but for sure the migration status is because it's easier for women to come in here.
That's true.
oh
For like as a caregiver,
Right.
Yeah, they
okay.
just most families they would definitely hire a female caregiver. So for immigrants, it's easier for women to come in. Like I said, because most families they don't want to work with a male nanny or male caregiver, so chances of them getting in the country is very, very slim.
Yeah, I actually just realized like most of the Filipino men here, they're not entrepreneurs, but they're like 9-to-5 workers. So they're the ones who are like working for like their family.
Okay.
More of the 9-to-5 thing.
I think the closest thing I've seen a male as an entrepreneur is the like a tattoo artist.
Yeah.
and barbers.
Yes, I was gonna mention that.
Barbers.
Yeah.
Okay.
But still, they also
Very
still
popular.
work full time, like the whole Monday to Friday thing.
Yeah.
Or like it's still 5 days a week, like
Yeah.
scheduled.
Wow.
But I feel like you have to be a really good barber to be
Make it out there.
They're
Yeah.
pretty good ones, but they're good.
And social.
Yeah.
I think that's mainly it.
I think Mina had a question. I don't know.
Yeah.
I wrote notes.
She was like,
So I'm so happy. Thank you for inviting me. It was a really good pleasure. I think this is a big learning curve for someone like me who's not in the field of entrepreneurship at all. A bit of background, like I'm a youth mental health counselor in Toronto. I left that job to come here and study social work. So it's like I'm a professional people helper. But one of my questions is something that we learn in social work is like the really importance of maintaining boundaries and like client professionalism and whatnot. I know that's really important when it comes to like orders, like ordre pour les enseignants or like ordre pour les travailleurs sociaux. But my question is, as an entrepreneur, how do you set boundaries not just for yourself, but with your clients? Also knowing that also as Filipinas, we network with our friends. So how do you mitigate, like for example, creating price points for your friends, or how do you mitigate you're going home tonight and you know you're going to go to the gym, but then you also don't want to go to that gym because everyone's going to find you and then they're going to ask you for questions and you're like, I'm here to work out, like go away. You know, so like how do you go around not just sustaining your job, like sustaining your craft, but like maintain interpersonal effectiveness? Is that a good question?
That's a powerful
it's a very good question. It's, and like I got bored. She's not kidding.
Is there anyone of you that has like something in mind?
I could, yeah, like it's difficult. So I've been doing this for 10 years. The first few years, the challenge would be, for Filipinos, they would always ask for discounts.
Or for free.
For free. So, I don't know if I've already mentioned, I'm also a Zumba instructor. So when I give Zumba classes, I charge this amount. So it's, let's say, for example, it's $10. There are a lot of other Zumba instructors who would charge less. And so...
Less than $10?
Less than $10, right? Okay, so hear this.
Why?
They would ask me discount because so-and-so gives...
10?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
So what I've done for other people is that if you take several classes, then you get discounts. So yeah, no, it's going to be at this point, in terms of setting boundaries with my friends, I've learned to become as well, to have a filter when I say this is the price, this is the price. I can give you certain time to pay for it if that's really the issue. But yeah, it's a challenge. Like I said, it's taking me a while. It's taking me a lot of like personal development courses to know my worth. And even though the competition it's pretty. I mean, there's a lot of classes going on right now like that charges less. And same, I'm pretty sure you speak for massage as well. They can go elsewhere for a different price, right? But you know the value that you're giving, so.
And it's something that like I'm still constantly like navigating, like as I'm growing and like developing my skills and like kind of grappling with like how I value my art and how like I see it, because like at the end of the day it is very subjective. It's like what you like as the artist want to put the price like on your work.
Absolutely.
But yeah, and it is like really frustrating and difficult to navigate because it's sometimes like, oh, if I put this price but no one is buying it, is it like, oh, is my art like not worth that value, or is it just because like that's not like the market or whatever? But yeah, I think it takes a lot of time to like
Yeah, it does
navigate
take time. Really, like you need to know your self-worth and set that price and know that like the people who actually want it will go there.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you have like a niche for people who like buy your art?
So up till recently, most of my commissions have been like portrait paintings. So people will like hit me up and be like, oh, can you do this painting of me and my partner, or like of like one of their favorite celebrities or artists or something like that. But now I'm trying to kind of like push the boundary and break out of that niche and like go outside my comfort zone and start experimenting with like other stuff and other styles. So I think that's also gonna
Change.
mess with like
It's true.
the value, because it's like, oh, this is something new that I'm trying. Like, I don't know how like good this is, or you know, but
It's tricky. There's no one way. We're always like constantly gauging things.
Oh, yeah.
Based on this, based on that.
And I feel like especially with painters and paintings, it's a hard market. Like it really truly is like you really need to, I mean, for sure have other hustles.
yeah,
Every painter that has that.
Definitely.
And yeah, like it takes time because it's like art. It's like your personal art, and like that takes time, and like it might take years from now, but like have comfort in that. That's the time that you get to develop it and like explore and have freedom in that, and like not be so caught up in like making the bank now, because that's just the reality. That's the nature of that practice. So it's like accept, enjoy.
I feel like that's what made it really easy for me to keep going. To just accept the fact that it will take a long time, and that way, like I feel like there's like a peace there, and you don't have to really feel bad about like there's less pressure. I think.
Yeah.
And this is kind of veering off the original question, but just also to like speak to that. I think that for me, there was a long time where because like I don't have that as much time to paint as I would like, just because like school and life and everything. But like the majority of the time that I was spending painting was on like commissions. So it's like I was only making art for like other people, and I wasn't taking that time to like develop my own like artistic voice and like kind of explore that creativity and like what else I like, because I was like, okay, like I need to like make money, I need to like pay for this and this. So that was like a hard thing for me to realize recently, because I was like, damn, like I've only been making art like to sell, you know what I mean? It's like I don't, and there was like a certain joy that was like lost in that, because it's like I'm just like commoditizing like what I enjoy doing, and it's like I had to take a step back and be like, okay, I'm gonna take this time to like stop taking commissions and just like actually explore like what I want to do, and like separate that like monetary value on my art, and just like find like to become more in touch with like the intrinsic value of it, like that I see in it, without like attaching that like value to like a price point.
Yeah, I always encourage that for other artists. Like I can only speak for my experience, but whenever I've just put out something really personal, like sell out, like honestly, like really everything that I have now is just like leftovers of like the older versions of like not the better versions, but all of it is like gone. And like I've had a point too where I made it work just to sell, and like it didn't sell. So like I said, I can only speak from my personal experience, but also seeing other artists and like how they sell their work, and like who is selling what and whatever, you know, like, because I table a lot, like I will sit beside someone and we have different interactions with people, and like it's a process, it's a journey. Like I'm down to like talk about it, converse about it. So like it's you're living, you're just experiencing different things, and you just take what you can from that lesson. But I think like really staying true to the art practice is like beyond monetary value, but like have faith that it will come at some point. But like finding that balance.
And I think having that faith also adds to the things that keeps us like inspired, motivated.
Yeah, that like, you know, the positivity, like everything will always work out. Like you will never starve. You'll always find a way to like make it work.
My second question is, I'm totally social working, you guys. So it's called the miracle question. So say if like tomorrow you go to sleep and you wake up and you're in like your ideal world, like the ideal world, like I made it, I'm successful, like whatever that means. And I know it often says it's not the destination that's the point, it's the journey. But if you were to envision yourself to be the best versions of yourself in your art and also in your craft and your business, what would that look like for you?
We're all like, for me, it's like having my own fitness studio.
Okay.
Like one day I'd like to wake up and, have my own place. So people will come to me and I don't have to go there. And, just have the freedom of like taking clients or not, or because, that's my ideal anyways. And also, as a mother, I have like this dream of having a legacy to pass on to my children. Afterwards they can take over it or not, but as long as I kind of have given them a little piece of me to remember, and either they can carry it on or not, but it's up to them. But like I also wanted to have leave a legacy. Yeah, that's my last dream goal or life goal.
What was the question again?
You're lost in all the
Like in your ideal situation where you have reached not necessarily the pinnacle of success, again, because that's a journey for each person, but like where would you want to see your art or your work and your job at like I made it, Mom. You don't have to tell me to be a doctor or a lawyer anymore. Or a nurse. You know what I mean? Because it's such a... I think you've made a good point, which is Filipinas specifically coming to rich, prominent countries or first developed nations to take care of other people's kids. And I think we come from a culture that's very hardworking, that understands the importance of labor, but also understand that we sell ourselves short for stability. Right? So it's like, go to school, become a nurse, Even to this day, my mom wants me to be a lawyer, and I'm like, I get it. Give me 10 years, like, I'm doing it. Like, she comes to McGill, ay, naku, my daughter goes to McGill. Yeah. The McGill student. And I'm like, okay. So that's what I meant. Like, knowing that you're paving your own path for yourselves, where would you like to see your art go, or wake up in a new world and like you live in this apartment? I don't know.
I would like to have a big, spacious apartment.
Do you see the pool? Did you see the bathtub? I was like, the pool.
I do want to have my own space. I was thinking of having like my own studio space also that I could rent out to have like these kind of creative like meetings.
So we can collaborate. There you go. We'll have a fitness center. She got like her wellness,
like a round table.
I'll do the mental health counseling.
That's like that. Like after they train, they go get a massage.
Yeah.
The art is made by.
Why don't we just make a community center?
Yeah.
One?
Yeah, this was actually one of our talks.
Big topic.
It's been a topic
Here.
but that's
another discussion.
It starts somewhere. And I think
and that's why I thank her for this, because I think she's connecting the links about all the other people who might be interested in that, and then we'll we cannot work on this one goal all alone. It's a community, like you said.
For sure. And I think it starts with just having a space. It's so crazy how a space can transform. Like we needed this space.
Exactly. Yeah.
Thank you. So to answer your question, I want to create this large space. Do I want it to be a big center?
we don't know.
If someone decides to give me money for it, sure. But no, I like to have like a decent thing, intimate, yeah.
Something to call your own.
Yeah.
And you can that freedom to
I would even then I don't think I would call it my own. I think I would call it like the space that me and these
Communal.
other people helped me create.
So like a collective.
Yeah, basically. That's the goal.
Next.
And me also would love to have a studio to kind of just like do my own thing, whatever. And ideally, I don't want to work like an office job or anything. Like I want to do art full time, which is like very difficult, especially at this point. But like ideally, that would be awesome because like. I don't know, that's what I really enjoy doing and I want to make like a living out of it, either through like selling my artwork and then I also like do music and spoken word, so like doing gigs and stuff like that.
Ideal scenario for my poetic side would be to have like stands full of my books with an S, just have my name known, you know. I mean, I've had a few sales and like those sales were my friends, my old friends, and some of my students, which is a very small audience, but it's still some people. But ideally, I'd love like the whole world to know about my books. That's a lot of marketing. I don't have a lot of time or money for that because teachers don't get paid well. In the teaching department, I'm so sad she's going. She's so cool.
Stay. I'll probably come back if you guys are still here. I'll message you if you're still here.
Alright.
I'll come back.
Bye. In the teaching industry, also it has to do with having my name known because it stems from the fact that like my dad is always like, whenever I have a problem with school, okay, I think I have to give a little bit of a backstory. It's because I'm new and a lot of people look down on me. I think I mentioned that earlier. So they question my integrity and my skills as a teacher. And also, it could also be because I'm Asian. You know, they don't show it overtly, but I can feel it. Energy never lies. So whenever I have a problem, my dad's always like, remember who you are, you're Michelle de Guzman. Show them that you are de Guzman. And so the way I want to do that is I really want to climb up the ladder. So maybe I don't want to be a high school teacher for the rest of my life in Montreal. Maybe I'll be a high school teacher all over the world. And it's the world is open for my profession because it's English as a second language. So I can go everywhere.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's the ideal as a teacher. Just to be known and not be just a number. Because I am really a number. Yeah, we have these number codes and that's how you identify yourself. Yeah, that's how you identify yourself as a teacher.
I was gonna say actually, like, is that a thing? Like for teachers to be like, I want to make a name for myself in front of other teachers?
In front of other teachers, yes, only if you encounter some issues. And the only reason why I'm encountering some issues is because I'm a really feisty person. And I was raised to like take no shit from anyone. So whenever I can sense that someone is going to like take advantage of me or look down upon me, that's when I'm like, okay, I have to step up, you know? Yeah. So making myself known is a big goal. I'm already starting now. The principal knows who I am, and that's how I have my job. I only replaced for like 1 month, and I was only going to stay at the school for 1 month, but I wanted to stay for a year. And so I spoke to the principal, and I'm like, I'm Michelle de Guzman, and he's like, okay, Michelle de Guzman, you're taking a full year contract. So your name being known is like, it's a big factor in the teaching industry.
So confidence will take you to places, guys.
I hope so.
I have a question. I don't know what you guys have already talked about, but in like no matter what field you're in, because I feel like this is like a pretty diverse group of people, but like what would you say has been one of the biggest obstacles to navigate a field as like a woman of color?
Racism.
Yeah, that's what I was like, I don't know what you guys
actually.
Okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I got weird answers.
I thought for general, but as a woman of color. But it's more like we talked about earlier about like Filipinos, how we're like, they always ask for discounts and stuff like that. So I think that's a big thing because it made me think about my value. Like it made me question my value. Like, is it really like? Is it because they're asking for discount? Is it really worth that, or am I underselling myself or overselling myself? And as a Filipino, when they ask for discounts, it makes you ask a lot of questions like that yourself. So it's more like the self-doubts and how you value yourself. I think that's one of the biggest things.
Yeah.
I think for myself, I have a very different answer because I don't sell nothing. I just learn. But I think, when I was in Toronto, I think one of the biggest obstacles for me, it's racism. Like, it's extreme, it's just racism. Like, I can't even undertone it, I can't light fluff it. Like, in the field of social work, it's a white woman field. And when you look at that, you have to understand that right now, the obstacles that I'm facing, none of these girls have to face. None of them. And the example is like imagining you're the only one white girl in a sea of, only one non-white girl in a sea of 100 kids, Or understanding that the teacher is talking about your community in fancy language, but they don't care about your community. They're talking about, I never knew that Filipinos are one of the largest immigrant populations here. I'm like, really? Wow. Colonizing you now. Giving back my land. But I think, when you look at it from that perspective, when I was in Toronto and I was working as a peer worker and a youth mental health counselor, in the not-for-profit organization I was working at, I was doing pretty much very similar tasks and roles as my fellow white woman colleague who did her master's at U of T, and she's paid way more. She has a full-time hours. She has all of those things. I, for example, did a deck, or I have a technique, but we're doing the same work, but I also have lived experience. So I think the undervalue of lived experience in academia or in the professional realm of whichever field that is, it's very low. I think we often think of, people outside of, the history of social work is inherently oppressive. It was basically Canada hiring white women and men from churches to go into indigenous communities, steal the kids, and put them in red schools. Yeah. That's the history. And you can't erase that history. So I think as a woman of color, and looking at your social location, there's so many identities. I'm not just a woman of color. I'm a woman of color. I'm a woman with a disability, even though it doesn't look like it. I'm a woman who speaks multiple languages. I'm also a dancer. I'm also this. But the world doesn't see all that. It just sees brown. And it's not necessarily white people I have things against. It's a system that inherently puts people at disadvantages and things that, for example, I go to my friends and they think it's a joke, but they're like, hey, Mina, ça va, oui? Comment allez-vous? I'm like,
microaggressions.
It's not, that's not micro.
Mega.
No, that's not micro. Micro is when my white professor is teaching a course on indigenuity and literally saying, I don't know why indigenous people have high chances of diabetes. And I'm raising my hand being like, I know why, and I know what to do. And he just looks at me, goes to all the other white kids, answers them, and then proceeds to the next slide. That's microaggression because you can't prove that stuff. You can't prove the tone someone says you had an anxiety attack, so it wasn't a seizure. Have you tried meds? Have you gone to therapy? Yes, Karen, I know. Yes, I've done that, Karen. Thanks. But anyway, that's I love this.
Yeah, I think people are just really unaware of it. Because I'm not black, I don't think it's something that people even notices. But what's this? Losing my ideas.
Woman of color, how you navigate it.
Right.
And we're not black, but understand also that colorism is inherent to the identity of Filipinos and any other place that's been colonized, right? The Philippines been colonized 300 years by Spain, then by the Japanese, then by still and America. so many times I remember my mom saying, like, Mom, if I get a black boyfriend, what's gonna happen? Ay, nako. If I bring a white Jewish man, life is good.
It was never like a big thing for me because I grew up in Côte d'Ivoire, so it was just normal for me to see like colored people. And whenever I see people like making like the only time I see white privilege is when it's obvious, like racism. But like there's tiny things there's really subtle things like whenever I talk about like my projects with the Filipino community. I was telling someone once about like my interviews for Filipinx month, and so I was like, oh yeah, I'm doing interviews where people are talking about their experience being Filipino Canadian, and she was just like, okay, like what's that gonna do? Like what's the value in that? They don't get it.
Is that the older generation, or is that like
She is the older lady, yeah.
I have so many questions. What was the question again? She was asking how do you navigate being a woman of color in whichever respective field, and then assuming what's as a teacher.
Yeah. Like what have been like some of the biggest challenges? And I think you spoke about this a little bit earlier.
If I'm talking as a woman of color, again the whole looking down upon me, but I'm very lucky because you know how I mentioned before that they're hiring more diversity and they're looking for more diversity. So I'm very lucky to be in such a diverse place, but the white man will always be above all, and it's run by a white principal, and then all of the other like vice principals are all women and they're all white, and then there's us. Yeah, so it's like, I don't know, it's tricky. I'm just lucky because there is diversity, but it's like this. I just love the kids though. They're like, they're all black, there's like a few white. There's a lot of different, that's what I try to see like the positives that overpower the negatives. And since my job is to teach, I will look at the kids more than I'll look at the administration. Even though the administration is behind everything we do. But as long as my kids are learning, that's all that matters to me.
In the end, the kids looks up to you.
I hope so. I really hope so.
I'm just look at it and I'm like, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong. You need to change. And you know, I hear you, and I humbly disagree. Only because how am I able to give my students or my clients the best care that I'm possibly able to give them if I'm burning out with an agency or an environment that doesn't value me, right? And I think it's one thing for a school to be like, hey, well, let's do our diverse quota. One black one, we got a trans one there, we got like a Filipino. Yeah, we're diverse. That's not diversity. That's tokenism. And diversity means, hey, let's look at our policies at the school. Okay, Bill 21, let's hijack that. Let's look at the policies at the school. Hey, let's have a person of color in a position of power for once, as opposed to always being the frontline workers. You notice that, like in social work, all of the frontline workers, all of the PSWs, all racialized folk, but the higher you go in management, it's white women and women. And
It's true.
Have you ever?
No, go ahead. I'm just talking about diversity, that's why. If you want to change subject, go.
No, it's the same subject.
Okay.
Oh. Have you been put in that have you been in that position where you felt like you're invited to perform or something, and it's only because you're like a woman or Asian?
I can answer that.
I definitely, I don't know if I've ever been in a space where I was invited as like a form of tokenism, but I definitely have been in spaces where I felt like I was the only person of color. But it's like, I don't know if that was the intention behind it, like when they invited me, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Yeah, I've definitely been in spaces where it's like, damn, like, this is all white people. And I'm just like, oh my god. I remember once I went to a show and I went by myself because I was coming from like another event, because usually like I'll have like friends come with me or whatever, and like because also I'm from the US, so like I don't speak French, or like my French is very bad, and I came into a space and it was like very, very like Quebecois, and I like had like such an anxiety attack like before I went on stage, because I was like, wow, I feel so out of place here, you know? It's like all like literally I think on the lineup it was like all other Quebecois artists, and I was like, why am I here? Like, but the thing is, like, for say that event for instance, like I actually knew the person that invited me, so like I didn't think that it was out of like malice or like even like attempting diversity. So I don't know. It's a weird thing. But I definitely witnessed it like in spaces that like not necessarily like I was the one being like tokenized, but I definitely have like seen that. Yeah, especially with like my like indigenous friends. Like they'll be like invited to stuff, and it's like we have respect for indigenous people, but it's like
like to add to that, because my main thing, I'm a fashion designer, but I sometimes do like background in film. So one time, it happened more than once actually, because I do a lot of film that they do here, like short films or shows that they do here in Quebec. And Quebec, so it's in like, it's either French shows or just like few episode English shows. But once or twice, more than once, so maybe 2 or 3 times, I was invited, and one of like the producers or like someone in the in there working told me, like, because I was asking them, like, am I the only Asian here? Because they're all white people. Because it's a French show, right? So it's like all white people. There's one black person and one Asian person. And they're like, oh, we just wanted to diversify. I was like, this is not diversity. It's just like having one of each, like one Asian, one black person, and like 1 million white people. And like they literally told me, it's like, oh, you were like the only Asian that was invited. And then they would have like parts of the scene where they would make me pass multiple times to make it look like there's a lot of Asians.
What? Oh my god.
It's like, they're like, I was wearing the sweater, so I passed, like you could see my profile, I'm Asian, then pass by the other way, but I'm wearing something else. So it's too, like you're using one person to make it look like
You sold your soul like that?
Well, I felt insulted, but at the same time, I'm like, well, they chose me out of all the other Asians.
It's like, hey.
It's like, okay, well, if I'm gonna represent Asians, I might as well do it right. So I'm like, okay, well, I don't know if that's insulting, but at the same
wearing
time.
2 blouses?
But it's like,
I'm so mad. I'm so hurt. I didn't even go.
Nobody was insulting. There was a part where they're like, okay, sit with that person, and I looked, and it was like this black guy. It's like, just sit there so it looks like there's a lot. I'm like, oh,
they overtly told you that? They're like, so it looks like.
Yeah, and they're like laughing, and they think it's like, and I'm just like,
Oh, and they were laughing.
Yeah.
That's not cool. What was the French show? Is it like French from France or French
No,
Quebecois?
French Quebecois.
Like, is it like a show like on Radio Canada?
Probably.
She's like so upset.
Just like I only started hanging out with Filipinos when I started working, and it was just literally like the manager was Filipina, so she hired a lot of Filipinos, and that's the only time I was surrounded with Filipinos. And then like when I see that you're trying to regroup back the community, I find like it's really nice, and like even just being here surrounded with Filipinas, so it's really I don't know.
It's empowering.
Like I was aware about the Filipino community out in Cali for like ever.
There's a Filipino community in Cali?
Yeah, it's
huge.
I went to.
Huge.
Oh,
California,
yes, there's
like,
that. Filipino town. I went to California, like,
especially like
summer.
Oh, that like Bay Area. It's
like you're from California?
No. There's more pandesal in the oven. They're baked better. Just kidding. And so after the Pinay Power conference that happened last year, I was like, how do we not have this here? And I think it's because I grew up in the community that's like
So
But
I
you
was
think it's
really,
already there, but it's like not moving.
Yeah, like how is it not moving?
Because it's like the older generation.
not
We're talking
growing.
about the older generation, like
Don't wanna
sustaining their old
Their
ways,
ideas.
and they don't want to change anything.
Yeah, their mentality is different.
It's different. It's not that it's wrong, but it's different. And we're evolving in like, we're like 2020 now.
Is something about founders?
I think it's just in general. It's not, yeah.
In general, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because I'm from Toronto, so hilariously enough, I wasn't involved with the Filipino community like really in Toronto, and it's bigger. It's way bigger.
Why not?
I think like growing up, my mom pushed for assimilation. Pushed for assimilation. She left the Philippines when she was 20. She lived in Europe for many years, and then she came to Canada. So she's already like Eurocentric in her mindset mostly. And here, like, you know, growing up, I always wondered, like, how come I can't speak Tagalog? Bakit? And she's like, you don't need it. You're in Canada. Learn French. I was like, okay. You know, and I think it's different also because she's a single mom, so there is no family. It was just me, my mom, and my sister. So it was very isolated growing up in terms of, like, you're in a melting pot of a city, but I'm also mixed. So, like, when I go to Filipino events, I'm never, like, Filipino enough.
Right.
And when I go to Indian events, like, I'm just not even do that. But you know, I look pretty in the dress. But, you know, there's so much of assimilated Euro-Canadian, like, standards that was what's mostly progressed. I think what brought me to really honing in on my identity was when I moved here because I was isolated. And I was connected with Monica Patak, who's also doing her PhD at McGill, and a lot of her thesis revolves around supporting like frontline workers, and that's her data collection. And I guess through her, I like learned so much more in this community, but I was also connected to her by my field practicum advisor. So I worked in Toronto with the newcomer Filipino youth, and then that's when I was like, wow, they called me ate? Cool.
What's that? Ate?
Ate means big sister. My own younger sister
I love
doesn't call me
this.
ate.
Yeah, I really feel you don't just say what's ate.
But I think that's
sorry.
That's okay. It's okay to ask. And yeah, when I like was working in the settlement and youth immigration, just that there's price as much as work must be paid for. To know that like people, I don't know, to know that kids like will remember you because you helped them out of love and not out of like you wanted something from them. Like I helped 4 kids get into university and like just helping navigate that process. Like that to me is like I'm gonna remember that. So that's where I am today.
I think like, and this is something that we touched a bit on earlier, is that like there is such like a strong like or like a big Filipino population like in Montreal, but there's just like a huge lack of spaces like this for people to like actually come together and like cultivate that community. And I think that we really saw that like at Nat Power, for like those of you that were there, like that was something that a lot of people brought up. They were like, we like, and I think like especially like younger like Pinais are just like searching for that community because it's like we know that we're here, but it's like how do we make these connections? You know, how do we find each other? How do we cultivate these spaces where it's like we can have conversations like this, where we feel like we're understood and heard? Because it's like a lot of the times when you're navigating a space where you don't have this community, it's like you can't talk about these things with other people because like they don't understand that experience, and it's like people are searching for that. So I think having spaces like this is like super important. So what do you guys envision for like the future of like the Filipino community and like
How to get there?
yeah?
I think if we have 1,000 Desirees.
You only need one, and then
Clones, that's what I meant.
Oh, I was thinking AI, cloning,
we're there already. We're there already. We can do it.
But I believe in the ripple effect. And I feel like if we all do like word of mouth, we can make something big. and you wanted a space, maybe I can try to figure something out with my school. There's classrooms there, girl. We can all, it could be a starting point. Yeah, like more people like you, more people like her, more people like us.
We should have coffee.
Yeah, we
Like,
should.
Like write down ideas and stuff.
Brainstorm ideas. And also, what are people's abilities and like what are our strengths? Because we all have something that is different from one another. But then also knowing like one man can't do it by himself. Like in community is how we thrive. That's what the human species. That's what we are. But then also understanding like what is our resources too. Like I have no idea what this cost to even like host. Was that a tear for your wall? So like what are ways not necessarily to cut costs, but if this is something we prioritize, it means it's something we'll contribute to.
It's an investment.
It's an investment. It's always an investment. So how do we hone our skills and like how do we utilize them to come and form solidarity? Because I think the reason why we're so scattered is due to capitalism, and it's also due to the like the crab bucket mentality. It's like you put all of the oppressed in one bucket, and then you're like, here's the resource. Hi. And I think and I don't know, this is only as a woman, but how come I don't love my sisters more as opposed to like thinking this is a competition? Like, why don't I support my sisters more instead of thinking, oh, he's just gonna steal your man? I'm like, I ain't got nothing to steal. Well, look at me. Like, so like
the older generation, it's always about competition.
That's true.
It's always about the pageants. It's always about like who's better, who's making the better money,
Who makes
But
the
we're the
best
teacher.
who makes the better lumpia.
Who's more assimilated, basically.
Yeah, but it's like it's not about that. I think it's like they get together, but they're in separate groups, and that's what separates us a lot.
But are we separated because we see them and they're separated, or do we follow their footsteps, or do we come together and do different things because we know that's not what we want to be?
It's like an option.
Yeah.
I would say yeah, I guess it just depends on how they think of it. Like, let's say us right now, like, we group ourselves because like we have a goal, but then other people kind of have like different mentalities about like. Sometimes people just prefer to be like isolated, So, I guess you're grouping yourself with people who have the same mentality as you is like how you guys can grow up together and then just inspire other people.
Well, like, I could have easily invited a bunch of random like Filipinos that I don't know.
Right.
But this is a first, so I thought inviting all the entrepreneurs that are in my circle would make things a lot easier.
But what I like though is that you invite people but we don't technically know
No,
each
each
other. So then that like helps us grow as well.
Yeah.
And we see that there are other people out there that are have the same goal as we do. So then it encourages more. It makes us even more motivated. So I find that really nice.
Yeah, like I know we all have these similar goals, but again, like there's no like spaces really, or like because I haven't had this kind of conversation or like in this kind of setting, like I cannot just randomly bring it up with someone. I feel. Yeah.
It's like a little test. Testing it over.
Pretty good.
I feel honored for being invited.
Yeah.
I've never seen you before. And
Wow.
And I like how you were saying that, like, oh, this is just the first. Like, there will be, because it's like, this is just like initiating those like connections, but then that network is gonna like keep expanding.
You always need like a one person to initiate. Initiate something.
It's possible. It's really possible.
I think you said something before that kind of stuck with me. Just because like we're all Filipino doesn't mean like we're all like gonna be best buds, Like that's one part of our identities. Like people are very complex, and I think like if we focus everything on just the identity of being Filipino,
I think that's where
we all connect
branch out.
and we branch out from there. And I think it's coming with like like-minded people who share your identity. And I think that's the purpose of like intersectionality, right? Like being women of color, but also being like having understanding our privilege, like being in Canada and understanding like this is stolen land, and like just understanding a lot of those things. I think that's what allows us to, or at least it allows me to, I'll just speak for myself, to like feel confident in what I can do and ask for help in things that I don't know how to do, and then like coming together. So it's like, I don't even know where I was going with that, to be honest. I was talking.
There's so much in our minds. Right?
Yeah. What do you think we could do
everything
going forward from here today? Like, how do we stay connected? I know Facebook, I know I got the Instagram, got it.
It's mostly like, I think it's mostly supporting each other, like encouraging each other.
Yeah, I like that.
Showing up to things. But to add on to another point,
I think we should right now.
She goes to McGill, so
She's like, oh, nanay. Yo, every Filipino event and stuff, I write everything down. Which is good.
I should do that. Just
Of
bad
everything.
memory.
From the Filipinx, like 3-day conference, from like everything, because I want to learn about my culture. Like, I didn't really have it I wouldn't say I didn't have it, but I feel definitely displaced from a cultural identity. So, like, I want to learn.
but I think it's important for the Filipino community to have people in social work, because it's usually people in social work who are aware of this kind of
Because we
data.
have that emotional intelligence to do that. Remember?
But mostly the data, I think.
Trauma!
I see little details.
I wanted to add, because I mentioned like having like a center, maybe not, but the idea is to have a center, but I don't want it to be a center for Filipinos by Filipinos. I want it to be a center
Like
by
BIPOC?
Filipinos, but it's not only for the Filipino audience. For everybody.
Because then we would be,
Because then
wouldn't
wouldn't
do
we be
our part.
isolating?
Yeah. Diversify too.
I have to admit, most of my friends, well, I have a huge diversity, but I don't have Filipino or Canadian Filipino friends. It just happened like that. And when a lot of my closest friends knew about my search of identity, or I'm really proud to be French Canadian, but I feel like I have the imposter syndrome of wanting to know about the Filipino culture, and I felt like I was not allowed to get to know that part of me.
Wow.
And when I told to my friends, I love you guys and you make me feel like myself, but I really want to know, like you have one life, you can't just, and so I was like, I need to break my pride and get in there and try to find online, where can I meet people just to get to know. And actually it's my friends who supported me, my non-Filipino friends who supported me to find a group, and they're like, don't ditch, go, like, I know you're shy, but like, go meet some people and just, relax, chill, it's just people. So I was like, okay, and they're curious, like, about food, or like, my boyfriend is like, I really can't wait for you to do a really good sinigang.
A really good sinigang.
Because I try to copy my grandfather's soup, and no. I love cooking vegan. I'm really good at cooking.
Well, that's not
All
Filipino.
Exactly.
Honestly, like I make Filipino food in like a vegetarian way, because Filipino food is so good, but all the fat and all that stuff that you use in there,
it's true.
long term, like high cholesterol shit. Like we need to slow down.
Blood pressure.
I need to live at least 80.
You can't eat the lumpia every day.
No, you can't. You cook with that
From,
veggie and deep fryer. I mean, like the air fryer. Do it like. There are ways, girl.
I would love to like see a vegan Filipino cook.
Yeah.
Whoa,
Yeah.
that'd be cool.
Yeah.
I found a
Super
book at Indigo. I should maybe bring it next time. But
Yeah.
introduce like it's called like the Filipino like modern cuisine. So it's a lot of, and I should bring the book because it's not only like recipes, but like the girl regroups like a bunch of like Filipino chefs, artists, poets who love who shared a passion for cooking, but Filipino food modern days. Like there's still the retake, sinigang, pancit, and adobo, and but the add a twist, like fusion, because like the Philippines, like you guys said, there was like a lot of Spanish influences, and then American, arrived, so there was like a lot of evolution. So I have to bring the book. It's really good.
Yeah, we can share it in the group chat.
Yeah,
Picture and share it.
I will definitely.
Like being Filipino, we can't necessarily say what's Filipino and what isn't.
What is Filipino?
I'm sorry. Like everything fusion is Filipino.
Yeah, right? I know. We are a very diverse people, even within itself. One of the things I have to shut up at some point. But but one thing I wanted to say last and least, I know we were talking about intergenerational gaps and feeling isolated as like youth or as younger entrepreneurs to try to find solidarity, but also feeling like the older generation is doing their own thing. I've been having these conversations with a few individuals who are considering themselves from the other generation, and some really do want to connect, and like who actually really they have resources, and some do. And I think also what I'd like to be mindful of is not the black and white thinking like it's all or nothing, and knowing that some of their concerns is how do we give space for others, for youth to take up space? How do we give that up? Or how do we let go of that pride? Or how do we get connected with youth? And I had this talk with quite a few people, and I said, well, if you want to be connected with youth, you have to find out what the youth are doing.
Yeah, it's true.
You have to show support. You gotta go and not just turn down their hustle, or their job and sell them short. Like you gotta listen. You gotta listen, and also youth, we have to be patient, and we have to understand that the generational gap is beyond just this. It's years of trauma that's been suppressed for their ability to survive.
Like, I'm sure we have grandparents who's been in the war. Like, not everyone has dealt with a sibling or like an aunt or whatever that has like PTSD.
Yeah.
I also understand if it's like a little bit like an imposter thing, like maybe they don't feel like they belong. So it would be good to like look from like even more outside space, hence the video.
Yeah.
So they can get comfortable with this kind of space. Yeah. All right, so we're gonna wrap it up. Thank you everybody for adding.
You guys were so beautiful.